And let me just welcome Ambassador Reich, an old friend and who I have worked with over many years, and just call attention to his last statement and underscore that when President Reagan became President of the United States, 90% of the people of Latin America lived under dictatorship. 8 years later, 90% of the people of Latin America lived in democracies. That was no accident. That was a strategy that we would change. It was a change in the Cold War strategy of using democracy as a means to promoting something positive to defeat communism rather than simply being against communism and supporting caudillos like Somoza and others that had dominated Latin America for so long. And let me just note that Ambassador Reich played an important role in that transition, and for that the American people should be very grateful. Unfortunately, we see what was accomplished during the Reagan years and since seems to be eroding today. We see very dangerous trends in Venezuela, of course, and Bolivia, and even in Nicaragua, where the democratic opposition was split in Nicaragua, and a former Marxist authoritarians are now back in power. Those things should be of great concern to us. For example, this weekend there is an election in in El Salvador. The election in El Salvador this weekend should be of great concern to all of us. We have former communist guerrillas, people who would have instituted a communist dictatorship on that country, who now are participating in the democratic process, are running neck and neck with people who are committed to democracy and have brought friendship and progress, friendship to the United States and progress to their own people. And let me just note, Mr. Chairman, you stated that there are $54 billion in remittances that go from Latin America to the United States every year. If we end up with left-wing caudillos, which are replacing those former right-wing Somoza-type caudillos that dominated Latin America, we should not be expected to have the same policies toward those governments as we do towards democratic governments. Specifically, if countries like El Salvador decide to turn to the left and to anti-American regimes like the FMLN, then they should not expect to have a policy that permits the $4 billion of remittances that come from the United States to El Salvador. That should be true of other countries as well. Ambassador Reich, what I'm getting at is the people of Latin America who decide to go with democracy and decide to be friends of the United States should be treated differently than those governments that become hostile to us. Would you agree with that as a fundamental proposition in dealing with Latin America?
May I? Yes, Congressman Rohrabacher, I do agree. The United States simply doesn't have the resources to be equally generous, let's say, or open with every country in the world. When a country, a government, decides that it is not going to be a friend of the United States, when it decides to undermine our interests, whether it be on the international scene or even domestically, for example, by violating the rights that we consider important, or by kicking out our EA offices that we consider important, or by throwing out a military base, as in Manta in Ecuador, that helps the entire region in the surveillance of anti-narcotics, or when they confiscate U.S. properties or expel U.S. diplomats. I think they're sending a signal that they don't want to be our friends. Now, that doesn't mean we should break relations. It means we should certainly not subsidize them.
Right.
I have said when I was a government official that we should not have normal economic relations with countries that are hostile to the United States. I don't know that that's a very radical
I think when the people of El Salvador and other countries go to the polls, they are determining the government that they will have, and they are also determining their relationship with the United States. They should know that if they choose a hostile government to the United States, like the MFLN down there in El Salvador, then that will be determine the policies we have on things like remittances and other economic cooperation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The time of the gentleman has expired. To abuse the privileges of the chair, the $54 billion that I referred to was not foreign assistance appropriated from taxpayers' funds. It was the size of individual remittances to this hemisphere made by individuals under their own freedom of choice, and I just want
that we permit them to do that. We permit those remittances.
I thought we were against takings, but well, never mind. The gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Sirius, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for holding this very important hearing today. You know, one of the challenges facing the Obama administration is how to best deal with the current poor relations with countries such as Nicaragua and Bolivia. How do we move forward in light of blatant hypocrisy regarding fair elections and dismissal of U.S. diplomats? And do you anticipate any confrontation from these countries at the summit, either one of you?